Hi guys! We are finally going to talk about foster care. So I've been thinking for a while about how I want to do this, and I'm just going to jump in and tell you guys our story of foster care. We had a lot of questions about what led us to foster care and how we started the process. So I'm going to tell you basically the timeline of our story, what we did, what happened when, and then we'll be doing another video where we talk about frequently asked questions. So stay tuned for part 2 if you have questions. But for today, we're just going to jump in and talk about how we got into foster care. If you're new here, we do have 2 little boys that we have adopted from foster care. And we also have 4 of our own biological children. So I'm actually filming this on Mother's Day. And somebody at church had pointed out to me today that this is the first Mother's Day where they are all officially mine. We have 3 more official to our family this year than we did last year on Mother's Day. So it's pretty awesome, and I thought it would be a good time to share with you. Okay, I took some notes so I could get it all straight. Our story starts in August of 2015. In mid-August, we had our 3rd son, our 3rd biological child, and his delivery went kind of badly. It ended with a bunch of codes and things and an emergency C-section. They had to put me under. It was very traumatic. It was nothing like my other children's births. And after that happened, I was pretty traumatized. And honestly, I was just scared to think about even having another child. And I didn't feel done. I had always wanted at least 4 children. And my husband didn't really feel done either. But the thought of trying to give birth again really scared me. So I just kind of wondered, where that was going to lead. And I had always been interested in fostering and adopting. And I think no more than anybody else, though, so many people say, oh, we've thought about it or we've talked about it. And that's kind of where we were at, too. We had not gotten any more serious about it. So I looked back today, and the next thing that happened was only 10 days after our son was born. A friend of ours, she posted a picture. She actually shared a post from our foster agency, and it was a picture of some blue duffel bags that they had decorated. One of her children's school groups or whatever had decorated these bags for foster kids and filled them with things that might comfort the kids on their first night in a new home. And so I quickly messaged her and said, oh, are you interested in foster care, or do you have any other connection with this agency? We've been just briefly talking about it, and I wonder if we should call. And she had nothing but good things to say about the agency. She said that they were considering doing foster care as well, and had asked some initial questions and gotten a good feel from this place. And so that was in August, again, of 2015. We let that go all the way until April of 2016, and I finally picked up the phone. We of course had talked about it and agreed that we would just call and see what was going to happen, or we would just call and ask some questions. So I picked up the phone and I called and I said, we're kind of interested in foster care. We'd like to learn more about it. And I told her a couple things about our family to make sure they wouldn't be deal breakers right off the bat. And then I asked if there was an orientation that we could attend. Everything I had read said usually that's where you start. And she said, let me get you in touch with one of our licensing workers. I can't remember if she told me or if the licensing worker told me on our first call, but our agency actually doesn't do group orientations. I think a couple reasons. They tend to have poor follow-through, and also they would waste their time at these orientations talking to families that if they went out and did the initial visit at their home, they would know right away if some of these things were going to disqualify them. And so instead of an orientation, our agency came out to the house. They just set up an initial meeting with us just to meet us, just to briefly see our home. This was not like a home walkthrough where we had to show them different rooms. I actually wanted to show them the rooms where we were thinking we had room for foster children, and at that visit, the licensing worker said it's no need. We just wanted to get a feel for where you live and what your home atmosphere is like. And then they went over the process with us and what would be expected and what kinds of things we would have to complete. And so, of course, we let them leave And we discussed it and prayed about it. Well, and they also told us at that time, I think actually in my initial phone call, they told us that training was starting that month, right in April. So they said if you're at all interested, you might want to jump into these training sessions. And if you decide it's not for you, that's fine, but at least you won't have to wait for the next sessions to begin. So we talked about that. We had our home visit. We decided let's go ahead and just try out these training sessions. And I'll be completely honest, guys, we both thought that that was going to be the end of the line for us. I'm really sensitive to some things. I tend to have trouble with nightmares, and so I cannot even watch the news because it will trigger nightmares for me. So I was really nervous about going into this class and having them tell us horrific stories about what these foster children go through. I didn't know if I could handle it, and my husband was, while he's not as sensitive as I am, he also was concerned that they were going to tell us things that would really scare us and put us off from doing foster care. So we decided we would try out the training sessions and just see if we even thought we could handle hearing about these kids. So the training that we went to was 2 Saturdays all day long and then 2 weeknights during that same couple weeks. So we got all of it done. I think it was 20 hours or something. We got all of it done. And we would go into each session thinking, oh, this is the one where they're going to say something scary. And they never really did. And at the end, you think, well, maybe they're just sugarcoating it a little bit. And when you get to the end, they had a panel that last day of foster parents who had been there, done that for years. And even none of them had anything awful to say. The things that people are scared of, like you're going to bring a kid into your home who is going to attack your other kids in the night, or you're going to bring a kid into your home and have to worry about sexual behaviors and things like that. Those things definitely do happen. Don't get me wrong. And they were talking about those things happening. But in a lot of cases, that's not the norm. And so we didn't know that. We thought like every kid you get is going to be terribly traumatized and it's just going to be a dangerous situation. Are we even doing the right thing by our kids to be trying this? And that wasn't the case at all. We heard a lot of positive stories, and most of the bad stories we heard were still not like axe murderer type things. It wasn't anything to be scared of. You'd try it, you'd roll with it, and if the kid wasn't a good fit for your home, the agency would work with you to find them a home that was better. And so we thought, okay, maybe we really can do this. And we went ahead with fingerprinting. We did several walkthroughs of our home. We had to prepare things in our home. We had our rooms measured to see how many square feet we had to even know how many children we could take. And all along, as we were going through this, our only goal was to do what we had learned in our class was about respite care. And so respite care is when you're basically a babysitter for the real foster home. Whether you have a child for a couple nights when they first come into care while they're waiting for a permanent home to open up, or whether a child is placed in a home semi-permanently and that family, say, has tickets to Disney and they didn't plan the foster kids into that because they weren't there when they booked it or whatever. Or if there's a child that's particularly challenging and the foster parents just need a break. Respite homes will take those children that need a place just for a few days. So that was what we thought we would do. It's okay, we can handle this. We have space, we have resources, whatever. We can do respite care, sure. But somewhere along the process, we just felt like, well, if we're going to all this work to get licensed, why don't we just put ourselves out there and see what happens? See if we were to get any children brought into our home. So we had officially started training in April of 2016, and we finally got our license in the mail in September, early to mid-September of 2016, we got our license. And so it took about 5 months, close to 6 months to get it. And when we started the process, they told us it would be between 4 and 6 months. Here's what I will tell you about the licensing process. Do not think that you are the exception. With anything in foster care, do not think you're the exception. we thought that because we got our training out of the way the first week and because we did all of our paperwork, like literally the day that they gave it to us, I went home and filled out everything and got it right back to them. We thought we would be ahead of the game, but as it works in the system, usually they are, the workers and the licensing people are usually just able to keep up. And so we were a good 5.5 months waiting for our license still. So we got licensed in early September, and when we did our license, we decided we wanted to be licensed for 2 children. There's a huge need for siblings to stay together in foster care, and so many people that do foster care open their home up to 1 child. It's really hard to find a place for siblings to go together. And so we said, okay, well, we'll open our license up to 2 children. Just in case God wants to use us to keep some kids together, we'll try that. And then when it came to ages, we decided we would get licensed for 0 to 3-year-olds. Now the reason we did that is because we homeschool, and while we are definitely not opposed to the public school, we didn't want to have to deal with teacher conferences and a bus schedule and homework and all of those things that aren't a part of our life. And so we thought even if we took a 4-year-old, there was a good chance that they would be in our care long enough that they would have to legally start school, because you're not allowed to homeschool foster kids. And so we decided to cap it at 3, and that way if we had a 3-year-old come into our home that was there for a year or so, they likely wouldn't have to attend school while they were in foster care. Now you can also choose what you will accept for children as far as special needs, race, gender, all of these things. So we left ours open to boy or girl. We did limit our choice to Caucasian, and that is not at all because we're racist or because we had reservations about biracial parenting. It's nothing like that. We actually limited ours because of where we live. We're in the middle of rural Michigan, so it is very much a Caucasian area, and we figured if we go out with 5 kids and being a small community, everybody already knows, we didn't have 5 of our own, and so we knew we were already going to be getting a lot of questions. Large family moms know you already get stared at everywhere you go. Our kids already get weird looks from strangers, and it was just a personal choice that we made, that we didn't want to put one more element on these little kids, to have them come into a community where they will stand out in another way. So that is a personal choice we made. I hope I don't get any negativity about that. Certainly if we were in an area where it was different, we would not have done that. But that was our choice that we made, and I just wanted to be transparent about it. So we said Caucasian, we said boy or girl would be fine. And then when it came to special needs, we weren't willing to take like children with a severe medical need that required, feeding tubes and things like that. But we were open to, drug affected children, ADHD, hearing or vision disabled. I hope I'm using the politically correct terms, but you know what I mean. We did open it up to some things that we had some experience with. We do some sign language in our homeschool, so I knew that we could handle that if we needed to learn more sign language. We've had to deal with some ADHD type behaviors before, so I knew we could work with kids like that. We didn't really limit anything except for severe medical needs. We thought we'll just see what happens. And then they do make it very clear that when they call you, they will go over with you everything that they know about the children and their needs and their experiences and their history. So we were pretty comfortable leaving it pretty open, and then we knew that if they called us and they told us something we didn't feel we could handle, we would just have to decline that placement. So when we chose 0 to 3-year-olds and we said we would take 2, we were kind of thinking if we got a call for 2 in that age, that there'd probably be like a 3-year-old and a baby, or like a 1 and 3-year-old, or a baby and maybe like a 2.5-year-old, because usually kids are, a couple of years apart, and I don't know, I guess that's just the average, and so that was what we had in our mind. So we did finally get a call. They called us at the end of October 2016, and we accepted placement of 2 little boys. They told us that they were 4 months old and 19 months old. We later figured out they were actually 4 months and 22 months old when they came. So that was kind of shocking to us because our own son was only just going on 14 months. And so we ended up right off the bat with a 4-month-old, 14-month-old, and a 22-month-old. And then we still had a couple kids that were a little bit older than that too. So that was when the crazy began. We didn't think that they would come to us both being under 2, but that was just what happened. And they both happened to be boys, and we had 3 boys, so we ended up with this house full of boys. And then shortly after they came, in their case, it was looking really good, and our social worker, we were talking with her, and she thought that soon the children would be transitioning back home. And so we've always had our children 2 years apart, and it was coming up on that time where if we were going to have another child of our own, we would be trying. And through this process of this 14 months since my son had been born, I had come to a place where I felt comfortable and still nervous, but comfortable trying to have another baby and thinking, I can get through this, we'll make this work. My doctor was really reassuring. So anyway, we went ahead and ended up getting pregnant. And immediately after I was pregnant, like on that very next home visit, our social worker had a serious talk with me and told me that things had changed in our boy's case. She didn't think that they were going to be able to go home. And so we ended up with her telling us we needed to start thinking whether or not we would want to adopt these boys. So we did give that a lot of thought. For quite a while we weren't sure, and I can get into that in a different video. But we ended up saying that yes, indeed, we were interested. And those boys' rights were terminated, their parental rights were terminated almost 1 year from when they came. So they came to us in October 2016. In October 2017, the rights were terminated, and we proceeded with adoption, which they told us, again, would take 4 to 6 months. In our case, it took, again, about 5 months. We adopted them in March of 2018. And so they are now officially part of our family. It is May when I'm filming this. They've been part of our family for a little over a month now. And I say a part of our family. They've been a part of our family for almost 2 years now, but officially our own children for a little over a month now. So that is how we ended up with our 6 little boys, so close together. And that is kind of how we came to foster. And so going forward, we did recently go through our license update for the year, and we decided that we will keep our license open for now, only because neither one of us is quite sure what we want to do, if we're quite done or not. And we know from going through the licensing process that it would be a lot more work if we were to try to get relicensed later. Even just having to bother our friends for references again, things like that. We don't want to deal with that again, so we're keeping our license open. So at this time we do have our license open. It is still open for 2 children. It is open for 0 to 3-year-olds. But we told our agency, if you call us right now, we're probably going to say no. And my husband was in the background saying, we're definitely going to say no. So I think we'd be saying no if they called right now. Other than if it was a respite situation, we would definitely have no problem taking a kid or a couple kids for, a weekend or a few days while they find another home. So that is where we are at right now. I hope that answered some of your initial questions. I'm going to be filming part 2, and we will go over all of the specific questions and rules and home studies and more details about the things like that. So stay tuned for that, guys. Hit subscribe if you liked this. Hit like so this can get out to more people and spread the word about foster care. Comment below if you have questions. If you want to private message me too, I'm always here. We're really passionate about this, and we really want to support you in your journey to foster care if that's what you would like to do. So thanks for watching, guys.